This is the plasma pole graveyard. I've filmed it twice before. 2 links will be in the description where I show you in closer detail all of these power poles that are obviously plasma fired, and this is where plasma fired power poles go to die. But I'm gonna run over here and show you something I don't think I noticed last time. Right over here in the center. So without pausing the video, so as you know, it's just a few steps away. Plasma fire devalues the currency of every other truther's stock in trade. Just like dumping cheap steel from China onto the US markets makes all the US made steel worth less. Likewise, this truth entered into the conversation makes whatever every other truther is talking about worth less. It devalues the currency of their own personal stock in trade. Whatever bullshit they're talking about matters very little compared to this. And that may be why you don't see many truthers talking about it, even the ones that come in contact with it. Because then everything else they're talking about don't mean shit. This might be another piece. No, that's like rock. Anyway, this tree stump and this tree stump, I'm gonna have to look through my other 2 videos, as I said, linked in the description, from the other 2 times that I filmed the plasma power pole graveyard over there. You think I could go in there and have a discussion with the people right there in that office? That's where I checked in to pick up this load. You think I could ask them about those power poles and this tree right here, and they'd tell me about how it just started on fire all by itself out of nowhere and they don't know about it? Well, sure, I could, but they probably don't want to talk about it. Because it's the end of the world as we know it, and they'd rather just whistle on past the graveyard. This is kind of cool. Look at the tips of these, how they're all burnt right on the tips. Here and here and here and here. So that's what this is. When you can see the unburnt pieces there, center screen. Here, unburnt. Unburnt in there. All these little unburnt spots tell me this was plasma fire. This unburnt right next to the highly burnt. Those that have been watching this for a while know what they're looking at. I don't have to point it out anymore. My point is, I don't think I filmed this. Here's another piece here. That looks like it was a square post that was just laying on the ground that burned right there. That's the hole where it burned. See the undisturbed dirt? That's the outline of where it's been sitting. You can see it still has the square shape of that post that was sitting right there embedded in the weeds. So this is where this piece of wood burned. See all the stuff around it unburned? How can this burn to that extent and all of this be unburned? This is denser. It draws the electromagnetic frequencies. The microwaves cook the potato in the microwave because it's denser and leave the bread roll right next to it uncooked. To use the example I've given before, how the denser piece attracts more of the electromagnetism and lights on fire and it cooks it from the inside out, just like in your microwave. When you take a bite of that potato, on the outside it might not be too hot, but on the very inside it burns your tongue. This piece of wood was sitting right there. You can see the undisturbed dirt and all of the unburnt weeds that were all around it. As it burned to charcoal, leaving the weeds untouched. Just like that. And in fact, when I dug it out, I think there was even some more like that. How does a piece of wood like that big burn to that extent in the middle of all this and not light that up? Plasma fire. We're talking about some stuff no one's ever seen before. The firefighters are not equipped to face this because they're not trained for this type of fire. This is the type of stuff where that extremely low frequency that those two college kids came up with, where they point a speaker at a fire and it puts it out. Using the exact opposite frequencies of the fire itself, using sonic frequencies, they can put a fire out. That's the type of firefighting we need to employ in these forests that it just keep lighting back up. It's like those trick candles when you blow it out and it comes back. You need something more like those sonic frequencies to subdue the fire. In this type of situation. So now I'll just go back and take another look. Is this the same piece? I think this is the same piece. Yeah, that's the same piece. I'll go back and take another look at some of those plasma poles. Here's another one. Okay, we're gonna take another closer look at this one because it's just burnt on the end, which is typical. Unburnt here, embedded right in. Look how I'm having to pull it right out of the weeds. And get the focus. Pull it up out of the weeds. The end here is burnt. You can see the end is burnt. This part's not burnt. It's like the electricity comes up and into the log and then flows out the end. Lightning only burns at the entry and exit point. So it's like it's coming into the log from every angle and getting out through the ends, and that's why it burns just on the end of the branches. This is the most common burn pattern of plasma fires. There's the hole that it was in. Maybe the other end is burnt too. Indeed. Look at that. I just pulled that out of the middle of some dry ass grass. That's shiny black because it's burnt charcoal. I'm not able to see very well because the glare on my phone. But also, I believe that was the down-facing side. As we've seen in many of these fires, the down-facing side is what burns. I've had my hand sitting on the top of burning logs where the top is not hot and the bottom is red hot smoldering. Live plasma fire videos. I've taken 4 or 5 of them this year, and I've been watching these plasma fires for the last 3 years. This is the 3-year anniversary. 2018 was my first plasma fire in Spanish Fork that I recorded. Ever since, I've been watching these plasma fire spots on the side of the road pop up more and more frequently, and this year, I've got 4 live ones already. That tells you that it's increasing very rapidly. You can see the hole down here where this log was in the ground, literally embedded in the ground in the weeds. With this end burnt, little bits of burn here and there, like here, little bit of charcoal here. And then pull it out of the weeds, and what do you have? A burnt log in the middle of unburnt weeds. Runs completely contrary to normal fire, which requires a lot of kindling to burn in order to get the larger pieces of wood burning. Here you can see this burn line runs right along it. Looks pretty cool. I think you can see that. Pull it out of the weeds and what have we? A totally burnt end, but only on the down-facing side. So my point was, that's the plasma pole graveyard over there. I don't think I filmed any of this the previous 2 times when I filmed the plasma pole graveyard. And I just wanted to add in that note about how this devalues the currency of every other truther, and that might be why you don't hear him talking about it, because after this, what is there left to talk about other than this? So just to give you a few more peeks at the plasma power pole graveyard, where plasma-fired power poles go to die. That's what all these are. And here in Nampa, Idaho, I've taken 4 or 5 different videos from here in Nampa. I'll include them in the description if I can just scroll down and find them real easy. But I just wanted to cover that other part over there because I hadn't seen that previously. See how it's highly burned here? Anyway, I don't need to keep pointing that out. Y'all get it? But that's what I think is the reason you don't hear many other people talking about this, because then everything else they're talking about is worth less. Like a devaluation of a currency when something more valuable has entered the market. They don't want to let this enter into the conversation because then everything else they're talking about is worth less. To the point of being completely worthless. But hey, you know, mud flood is no different than Kit Kat with a dash. No different. Let's just keep taking them on rabbit holes into so they descend into an abyss where nothing is real and nothing to get hung about. Plasma-fired fields forever.